A thing I really should do is write down some notes about something that I want to say before I start recording the audio for these videos, and that is not something that I do. And on the one hand, it would make probably me doing this narration or voiceover or commentary or whatever this is smoother and more, more engaging. I would feel less flustered whenever I can't think of where to go next or I lose my train of thought. I'm sure that would help with this, but sort of one of the things that I really like about doing this is I'm using these videos to give myself incentive to keep producing artwork, but not make it like a job. So if I had to write a monologue every time I did one of these videos, with as rarely as I finish one of these videos anyway, I can just tell you there would be fewer videos than there already are. So I do appreciate anyone who is watching these, and I thank you, and I hope that you are finding them entertaining. But I am not a YouTuber. I have no aspiration to be a professional YouTuber. I'm just kind of doing this for fun and sharing it with anyone who happens to care to watch. But with that being said, I do hope that you're enjoying what you're seeing now. Here, I vamped for quite a while here at the beginning because this is the first time I've done a kind of a longer video in a while. This one's about 13 and a half minutes. It'll be a little bit longer because of my talking over it, but this drawing took me just work time 13 and a half hours to finish, because I spent a lot of time working on it, and in real time it actually took me probably 3 months because I kept getting interrupted with a lot of other things to do, and I don't have the best computer setup. I kind of just worked on it in between a lot of things. So I did finally get it done. With that much time going in between, I keep revisiting my old sketches and looking at them and saying, oh, I don't like them anymore. I think I could do better now. So when I don't finish a drawing in one go, I guess, I never finish a drawing in one sitting, but like when I do have to take time off, it sometimes feels like coming back to it. I always debate maybe I should just start completely over, but I stuck with this one, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, and also I put a lot of effort into it, so that's another reason it took me a long time, and I took breaks every time they started to get tedious, and I had to step away from it because I didn't want to rush, and that's a good message, I think, for artists, is especially when I first started doing these videos, I had the impulse to like rush, and I was always worried because I was recording myself. I was like, oh, the idea is like somebody's watching you, so if you make a mistake, it's like, oh, now I have to do it perfect every time. And I really had to get past that idea. I had to remind myself I'm only recording this for fun, for myself to watch it back, and that way I can take my time. I can make mistakes. If I'm not happy with something, if I really didn't want to share something, I just don't share it. But I do want to share kind of the whole process. The only times that I really cut anything out of these videos are if I happen to leave the screen capture recording and I had to step away to like get something to drink or something, because otherwise you'd just be staring at a screen where nothing is happening. But I want to leave in the moments that I maybe put a lot of work into something and then ultimately delete it because I didn't like the end result. I think that's all part of kind of, if I'm going to share my process with you, that is part of it. So one thing that I do kind of debate sometimes, and you saw it at the beginning of this video, I couldn't figure out exactly what kind of pose I wanted this character to be in, and I was playing with the proportions. I wanted this character to be an exaggerated humanoid proportion, so he's more muscular than a person should be. His arms are longer than typically humans' arms are in relation to the rest of his body. Let me talk about this character, I guess. But that's all called the the figuring out, the ideation process, the figuring out of what it is that I'm going to draw. And sometimes I think about cutting that out because it sometimes doesn't go anywhere, but this time it did. But so this character was supposed to be kind of like a giant in like a Dungeons and Dragons setting, kind of a more modern, so like a Spelljammer kind of setting. And so that's the inspiration of, he's a Goliath, he's a half giant, but he's a futuristic glam rock shredding guitar player. So the proportions would make more sense if he were next to another person, because he's also probably like over 8 feet tall, which does ultimately mean his guitar is also kind of huge. I did try to make it smaller to fit the fact that he's a very large man, but ultimately I played with the proportions of the guitar enough that I don't think you would have noticed that anyway. One thing that I still want to do and haven't yet, spoilers, so the video does end with finishing just this one character, but I did want to design his entire crew of spaceship piloting, pirate crew, rock and roll mercenaries. There's your elevator pitch right there. And that would have shown that like the other members of the band, or the other members of like the adventuring party or whatever they are much shorter than him. He's the big guy, I guess. And I did try to make the guitar have like a blade to it. It's very ridiculous. Think like Space Dandy or Gurren Lagann or one of those like ridiculous, I guess a lot of Trigger anime are kind of this ridiculous idea. And then Candy Hammer is the name of the band. I talked very little about the design of the character specifically, but I don't know how much anyone really kind of listens. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed watching this one. I had fun making it, sporadically whenever I got a chance to. Which is actually okay, because guess what I did, everybody? When I recorded this this commentary, or the commentary you just listened to, because here's the reveal, is that this is a second recording right now that I just started. When I recorded the commentary the first time, I, for whatever reason, had the video playing back at double speed, or just approximately double speed. So wouldn't you know it, I have to fill even more time. So one thing that I remember saying is that I wanted to leave the mistakes that I made, or I wanted to leave those things that I put a lot of work into and then ended up deleting. When I said that, you'll see it coming up later in this video, where I attempt to redo the design of the face of the guitar, and I decided to leave that whole thing in. Ultimately, I kept what is currently the design of the guitar. I think I made it a bit less saturated and a bit darker to kind of blend it with the rest of the color scheme. But I did the guitar before I had decided what colors I wanted the rest of this character to be, and as you see, these characters or these colors rather are all blocked in. I mean, I guess they could go together, but they are just kind of randomly selected, and I left them that way. And that was about where I took about a month of a break from working on this character, because I just had a lot of other things come up. So when I came back to it, I looked at those colors and I deliberately reminded myself those are not the final colors. And but I still hadn't decided exactly what colors I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do kind of like an 80s glam rock kind of aesthetic here. And another thing that I'm currently working on, as you can see now, is that I left the upper body exposed, having a bare torso, because I wanted this character to have like a bunch of tattoos. And I'm not a tattoo artist, and I have never really attempted to do tattoo art, so I had kind of had no idea what I wanted to put, other than I wanted to kind of be like somewhat tribal tattoo design. I knew I wanted it to be like a taking up a large portion of his body. And ultimately, I kind of blended that idea of this like 80s glam rock with the shooting star kind of symbol and made it solid lines. And I wasn't sure how that was going to turn out. I really wasn't, because it was still on the solid block of the pale flesh tone that I thought, I don't know how shading this is going to be. I don't know how, if it's going to look like it is a tattoo or if it's just going to look like random color on top of the drawing. And ultimately, I think here we are. I really like it. And it wasn't as difficult to do as I thought. What I thought I was going to have to do was go in and do all the shading of the skin color and then go in and like redo and try to match up where the darker points were. But I was able to just kind of do like a light layer over there, which I tweaked it after the fact, but mostly it made it easier. So I'm really happy with his tattoos. So here's where I'm doing. I tried to use that same kind of technique to match the colors to the guitar, and I ultimately just really didn't like it. But I do like what I did with the guitar. I was worried that the kind of like plasticky effect on the lightning bolt would look weird, so I did kind of mute it a bit. But the more I sit here and look at it, the more I think I like it. So I guess, I mean, you can let me know if looking at it for the first time you think it looks bad. To me, it was like I kind of had to sit with it for a while, which is sometimes necessary. The little stitching there that you just watched on the pant leg, doing the shading, making it look like the thread is going through the material of the pants, that is a detail that I'm really happy with, that I don't think anybody will notice if I don't point it out to them. But that's what I meant when I said I put in like a lot of attention. I paid a lot of attention to like really small details in this, and it did take a while. I made the bottoms of the boots have like dirt marks and mud marks, even though this is a guy who's probably, not walking through the mud all the time. He's on stage performing, but your feet get dirty. So that happens. You'll see the text there. When I mentioned the name of the band was Candy Hammer, that's where I was in the double speed video. So I apologize if that came out of nowhere, but there it is. I put the title there because I had planned, as I'm doing now, to work on sort of a really quick logo, graphic for the band. And I didn't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I wanted to do something more than just random colors in the background. So I played with lighting. I tried to make it look like he was kind of on stage. As I said, I want to eventually add more characters to have like a full band. There's got to be like a bass player and a drummer and probably several other things. But for right now, this is where we're leaving it. I hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks.